You are listening to the Total Geek podcast. My name is Sean Bartley, and I'm joined by my friends
Leo,
Danny.
Harris actually could not make it today. Harris is a little under the weather, and he barely had a voice. So in the last minute, in the final hour, Danny was able to come through and help us out. So thank you for that.
Yes. It means you guys are stuck with me again.
thank you.
It's a pretty big news week this week, and
Is it?
actually, right before we decided to come over here to record, a big piece of news was revealed. It kind of confirms some things that we already thought, but the WB CEO, Kevin Sugihara, says that
That's
Batman...
a mouthful.
He says that Batman will be a very tired and seasoned veteran.
Okay.
So that confirms that the new Batman in Man of Steel is going to be older, which we already knew, obviously.
In old
They're
fart.
still sort of shooting for that Dark Knight Returns model here, it
Yeah,
seems.
exactly. So very interesting piece of news. Like I said, it confirms something we knew, but interesting nonetheless that they came out and said this. What do you guys think about that?
Like you said, again, really not a lot of information. It's the same story.
Yeah.
We already knew they were going to hire a seasoned actor.
Ben Affleck.
Affleck. God, I really wish we can move on to the conversation.
Never gonna happen.
Ben Affleck always comes up.
We start with Batman every week.
Every week we start with DC and Ben Affleck.
Yes.
And Batman too. Oh my God. The unjoys of me. But anyway, yeah, I mean, this doesn't not... I don't think it's that big of a news. It's
Okay.
just confirmation of what we
Yeah.
already knew. So if you already heard the news, the trickles that were coming down, the informations, the websites and stuff like that, it's just harping on the same, news that we already know.
Same beat. Why do you think we're getting an older Batman?
For me, and I think we talked about this.
Yes, we did on the last one of the podcasts.
I believe that the reason is because he needs to teach Superman lessons about what it's like to be a superhero on the planet
He's going
Earth.
to take on like a mentor role.
Yeah, obviously we're gonna get the Superman versus Batman sort of thing. There's a Batman who's no nonsense, no question, and he's gonna have a bone to pick with Superman for all the chaos that he caused in Metropolis. You gotta imagine he probably killed hundreds of people based on what he
Total
was
chaos.
doing in that
And
movie.
Batman does not kill, so that
Right.
comes the morality of the two characters.
Right.
One character that refuses, works through intimidation and fear and illusions, and we have a character which pretty much is a god amongst men.
Yep.
And could decide to be judge, jury, and executioner. And now you have a character who's going to show him morality, even though he's in his right because of his origin and where he comes from, that dark human place. He refuses to take a life. Well, we have a character that is so powerful that it's beyond human standards.
Yeah.
And he's already taking life. So
Right.
that's really, if they played it their cards right, it's going to be a great tale. Even a Hamlet tale of two characters are there. One that has the disposition to do it, and one that does not, or does, and works that way. So.
I think that, we haven't even considered the fact that Batman may be already a part of the Justice League. There may be a group formed, and Batman has experience with people of Superman's power level and wants to show him how he should behave in this world.
That'll be a stretch on that movie, but I guess. They could pull it off, but I don't see that.
I don't mean to say that they would actually be in the film. I mean that he may have teamed with people in the past. Maybe there's not a full-blown Justice League, but maybe Batman and Wonder Woman have met before. Or, things like that. We really don't know, so it's all speculation, but it could
I
go
will buy
anywhere.
that ticket if they show Wonder Woman.
I think you're going to buy it regardless.
No, especially if they have Wonder Woman. I'll pay double for it. I'll pay the ticket twice. I'll go back on the line and pay for it again.
Someone's wrapped in the lasso of truth.
Right? There
Yes,
you go.
I am in her lasso. Whatever else he wants to throw at me.
So staying in the realm of casting news, we have Katee Sackhoff potentially being Miss Marvel. I think that is a really interesting
In the
piece of
Avengers.
news. No, not in this upcoming film. And I should say that I don't actually know that for fact, but no rumors have emerged that she would appear in Avengers 2. Likely, it would be for a solo film or something down the line, but not Avengers 2.
Thinking about that casting right now, I'm not going to say I don't like it. I actually do. But seeing the comic books, she doesn't resemble to me Captain Marvel.
You mean in the physical? In the physical. Realm. Well, you're going to be hard pressed to find a woman who looks like that and can act.
You mean like a man? Kind of manly.
Miss Marvel looks like a man to you?
Well, they kind of, they kind of like. Yeah. I don't know if she has she's a very interesting actress.
Yeah.
Anybody that's seen her in Battlestar Galactica knows that.
Yeah.
I don't know, the way that they draw her, it just doesn't look to me like the way that the actress looks like.
Well, the new Captain Marvel stuff. Obviously, she was Miss Marvel before. Now she's Captain Marvel. She's kind of harder edged, and she's always had an edge to her, Miss Marvel. But she's kind of harder edged now. She's the shorter hair, fully covered up. So I think that piece of casting makes a lot of sense, especially given that Katee Sackhoff does has a history with Battlestar Galactica. She's known in that series as an amazing pilot. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Miss Marvel got her start as a pilot. I think that there couldn't be a more accurate casting for that character.
Maybe. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I would really love to see a Miss Marvel solo.
I could see it. I really would.
I think it would be incredible. The only question is sort of, how did she get her powers? Because obviously we know that she gets her powers from... she gets her powers from Captain Marvel.
Yes.
Yeah. So how do they introduce that?
Isn't he an energy entity that goes...
Well, look at Iron Man. Not Iron Man. Age of Ultron. They're taking a lot of liberties with backstory, with a lot of the characters.
Yeah, it might be a whole different character.
May not be so familiar with.
That's fine. But the question is, how does she get her powers? It's still a relevant question.
Totally.
Because they haven't really had a human being get taken over by an energy force or anything like that so far. So
hopefully we'll not turn into a Green Lantern.
I think that you're in the wrong universe there. That hasn't happened yet.
No,
so.
I mean as a movie, not necessarily.
Well, that I don't think that Marvel has that in them to make a movie that bad.
Daredevil.
I mean Marvel Studios.
Ghost Rider.
Marvel Studios, not Sony with Marvel's brand.
Right.
That's only gonna work so far until they do a bad movie.
I guess, but I'm not counting them out. I mean, I hated Iron Man 3, but it still felt like Marvel.
Yeah.
That I think that counts as
a fail.
A fail.
A lot of people enjoyed
even though
it
was they consider it a plus, but that
I would consider it a fail. Trust me, I would love to because I hated it, but a lot of people liked it. So
yeah, well,
it's like Tony Stark, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D.
What if the common man rule the country? Oh my god. Anyway.
So I don't know. She says that she hasn't spoken with Marvel. She doesn't deny that potentially her representatives did, her agents maybe.
Okay.
And she said she would love to do the part. So I would actually look to this being legitimate. I really would. And we'll see.
I mean, I don't see why not.
Yeah.
Like I said, the images that I've seen about her in Avengers and stuff like that,
sure.
and the new, they kind of like relaunch her again in the new comic books. She doesn't to me resemble her, but in the sense of her appearance.
Yeah.
But physically, yes, she does bring that into the table.
Right.
And I don't see why not. If they're gonna give her again, like we already said, they can give her a whole new origin. They can do whatever they want with that character because it's not a character that is well known. It's not a character that, quite frankly, people are glamoring to see a movie of.
Yeah.
Unless you're really a comic book fan.
Well, yeah, I mean, Carol Danvers has sort of had some good moments of late, and they are trying to make her a more prominent figure because Marvel doesn't have a Wonder Woman. You know what I mean? Like, their big three is three men. DC's has a woman. I think Marvel would love to pick up that sort of character who can ascend to that role, especially for the films, because while Black Widow is an interesting character, well done, she's not very powerful. Yeah. So what happens when they have to fight Thanos, right? They need a heavy hitter and a female heavy hitter. So that's a whole demographic that they're leaving out.
Yeah.
So I would love to
Now
see
that
this happen.
we're bought by Disney, I can see that.
Yeah. Well, even then, I mean, why not?
Yeah, why not? But it's something like, again, you said they never developed one in the comic books.
Right.
And now they're trying to develop one.
She can be the next Disney princess.
There
Wow.
you go.
I would really not like to see that.
You'll never know. It's Disney. Let's not disregard the billions of dollars they pay for Marvel.
Yeah.
It has to be profitable, or it's not gonna get done.
Well, they are on the lookout for more heroes. We know the Black Panther rumors, which that's been going on.
That's
for
actually a
months.
good choice for a superhero.
Yeah.
It's by time we see a minority character
Yeah, we
come
know-
to prominence.
We know that they have Ghost Rider. We know that they have Daredevil. So there's a lot of things that can happen. They have obviously Luke Cage, Iron Fist. We could see a Heroes for Hire movie. There's a lot of things that can take place. But specifically with this Captain Marvel casting or potential casting, rumored casting, really, really excited. Really excited.
I like the idea.
Yeah.
Hopefully they'll pull it off.
And that's not all the news. That's all for the casting news for today. But we've got a lot of other stuff going on in comic books.
Do tell, Sean.
I sure will. So, Jeff Johns is out on Aquaman. He's gone. It's over.
That was quick.
As of issue, I believe
26?
it's 26.
Correct.
Yeah, he'll be
I
out.
believe so,
Is
yes.
he going anywhere else? Is he headed to? a
He's
new book?
staying in DC. But
Well, Jeff Johns is sort of the head creator at
Yeah.
DC, so he's probably going to handle all the big events. We know that he's got Forever Evil, obviously, and then whatever follows from that, he'll probably tackle. And, of course, he's the writer on Justice League. He's not going anywhere. But Aquaman, for now, that's over.
But they're bringing the writer of Batman, the comic book version of the old series, which I have not read.
66, you mean?
66,
So,
correct.
so that would be
Yeah.
Jeff Parker.
That will be Jeff Parker,
Yes.
which, according to the people that have read the comic book, he has done an amazing job on that book.
I actually did read the first issue, and I thought it was really good. And I've been a fan of Jeff Parker's for years. Thunderbolts was very good. He had a stint on that. He's done a lot of really good work. So I'm happy with
So it
it.
seems it's going to be in good hands.
Yeah.
I'm wary of it because Johns he has done a very good job
Yeah.
with Aquaman, a character that before the relaunch was, let's be
It's
honest
kind of hard
about
to like
it.
Aquaman
Yeah.
before. Not many people.
Yeah.
Really would
Correct.
gravitate
There you go.
towards-
And he's done a phenomenal job with that title. So it's sad to see him go. I guess then the War of the Kings or whatever the new storyline.
Yeah.
It's gonna be ending by issue 26, and then we're gonna get a new start with Aquaman, which is not bad because he kind of did leave it on that new status quo.
Right,
For
yeah,
52.
a fresh start, yeah.
So I'm cool with it. I don't have a problem with that.
Me neither. Typically, when a writer leaves a book, I often drop those books because the drop-off in the quality of that writer's work is high. This time, I feel that Jeff Johns leaving and Jeff Parker coming in, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
That's pretty good.
And if you consider that Jeff Johns, like you said, he's so important to the DC. He's so entwined into the DC as a company.
Yeah.
He's, I think, the creator, director of all the writing and stuff. So he must have seen or read already where the guy is taking
Right.
the story to
Right.
say, yeah, this is exciting. I'm going to give it to you. Take it over, even though this was my baby. So run with it. So yeah, I'm excited to see what they're going to come up with it in the
Yeah.
next storyline.
Absolutely. Sticking in DC, we have the news.
We love you, Marvel.
We'll be back.
The very sad news, actually, that J.H. Williams and Hayden Blackman are exiting Batwoman. Yep. This is, unfortunately, the same old story we've been hearing essentially since the New 52 started 2 years ago, where creators are being stifled by editorial.
Nothing new.
Yeah, and of course this is not new in comics, but specifically with DC, we've been hearing this same old story over and over again. J.H. Williams and Hayden Blackman say that they wanted to have Batwoman get married, which, of course, if you read the last issue, you see the proposal. And DC allowed the proposal, but won't allow the marriage. They refuse to allow the marriage. And they say that this is the first time that they've been denied the ability to do something with their book. Oftentimes, they would be told they couldn't do something at the last minute, so they'd have to go back and come up with a new idea. It's really sad because they brought this character to prominence.
Yeah. But if I remember correctly, I think he tweeted back that the marriage thing wasn't such a big deal.
Right.
I don't think they were intervening in that. So let's,
Well, the aspect of it being a same-sex marriage wasn't a big deal.
Exactly.
Right.
That was so that wasn't so much why they quit the title. They just it seemed like they just got tired, and like a lot of creators said, it seems like creators they want to tell a story, they want to see it through, whether it's good or bad, it doesn't matter. You want to have the liberty to tell your story, to have your own voice in whatever it is that you're writing. That's why they hire you for. And now it seems like DC is turning into Marvels in the early 90s, where they just to put their hands on everything. And no, you can't do this because we have plans for this and we have plans for that. And you can't use this and you can't use that. So creators are kind of like, well, if I cannot tell my story, then why did you hire me?
Right.
So I'd rather not have this problem and move on.
And all that's true, and even more so on such a last-minute basis, to allow the proposal to go through. What did they think was going to happen?
Yeah.
Were they expecting some sort of like defeating story where
Long-term
that
marriage.
meant nothing? Like, it's such an uncool move on editorial's part to really do that.
Yeah.
And that's more of a reason why I can see the creators getting fed up and just bouncing.
Exactly. I mean, Dan Didio did come out and say that it had nothing to do with her being a lesbian. They have a sort of
love
mandate.
lesbians. I'm a lesbian.
Well, that. I think that might be the most interesting piece of news from this week.
Oh, really? You didn't know that? Okay. Continue.
It's a mandate. They don't think that superheroes should be tied down in that way. The question that comes to my
I'm a
mind.
lesbian, but I go on mandates.
Now that's the most interesting news we ever.
The question that comes to my mind is if you're gonna allow characters to be in relationships, what is the difference between being in a relationship and being married? Marriage is an extension, or really it's the same thing as being in a relationship, just legalized. So characters can break up, characters can die, whatever happens. You don't necessarily need to keep them from being married to keep them sort of right, because they're in relationships already.
I mean, it brings in new elements that could happen. In marriage, there's a whole new set of threats posed to a superhero character. Like, I mean, not really so far from a relationship, but it's more intense. You could write it in.
I suppose.
Find some way to do it.
I suppose. I mean, I just don't see the reason why they should not let that happen.
I've been married 17 years and I have nothing to oppose this conversation. I don't know.
I mean, we know that, of course, Spider-Man was, his marriage was retconned out of existence.
Yes.
By Marvel a couple
The
of
new
years
Marvel
ago.
52?
No, this was pre new Marvel 52, if you will. Pre-Marvel now. But in that case, it actually makes more sense because Spider-Man is meant to appeal to young people.
Yeah, he is. But again, it's an evolution of the character. How long can you keep him young? Same thing with Bruce Wayne. How long can you keep him lonely and bitter?
Forever, actually.
Yeah, you could. But if we're talking about evolution of characters, which we had already discussed in different podcasts, there's a reason, they're in a relationship. I don't see what difference does it make if they're married or not married.
Right.
Kyle Reiner was living with his girlfriend until she got stuffed into a refrigerator. So it doesn't matter if she was married. She was going to get stuffed into the refrigerator anyway. So
that actually brings me to a very interesting point. So a lot of people are questioning whether DC has any respect for female characters at all, because obviously that's the infamous, females in refrigerator thing that did happen. This, of course, now Batwoman not being allowed to get married, even though I will stress once again, this has nothing to do with her sexuality. But DC is holding auditions for regular fans to become artists at DC by submitting different panels of Harley Quinn. All of the panels have Harley Quinn trying to kill herself. One of them in particular has Harley Quinn, you have to do this, naked in a bathtub trying to commit suicide. Why would DC put something like that out? Why would they ask their fans to submit something like that? I don't understand it.
I didn't have a problem with it. Again, where we have is this an issue about a character committing suicide, a female character committing suicide, or this is an issue about a character committing suicide? And this is a very heavy issue. Again, this is a comic podcast, so we're not gonna get. I don't think we're gonna get into the issues of why people commit suicides or whatnot or not. But what's the issue? The issue is about a character committing suicide or a female committing suicide. I don't see it as a big deal. If this was Deadpool or Lobo, which are characters that are supposed to do stuff like that, I mean, kind of like a tongue-in-cheek humor kind of thing. Will this be news, or is it news because it's a female character?
I'll tell you what.
And I don't think it says nude, semi-nude, because he's in a shower or a thing like that.
Yeah, in a bathroom.
So is it more of a news because it's a female character, or is it news because it's suicide?
Yeah. I'll tell you this: if a writer had an artist draw this in a comic book, and there was a story behind it, she was trying to do this for whatever reason, maybe the Joker, hurt her emotionally and she wanted to end her life, that would be acceptable.
Yeah, which we've seen this before in stories.
That would be acceptable because it fits her character. But for DC to ask their artist to just draw this with no context whatsoever is very disturbing to me. It really is.
Well, it just shows that they don't have female people in there.
It could be because they're trying to see how that person would literally draw the scene, not so much the content of the naked character, but Harley Quinn. Like maybe they would put some sort of spin on it, and maybe they're looking for not only how a character is drawn, but also how a creator or an artist could interpret a script, even by making the idea that vague and that perverse.
But let's keep this in mind. They did choose Harley Quinn, which is kind of like gag character.
It could have been anything.
But it was Harley Quinn,
right?
And it is her trying to commit suicide, and the last panel is her nude, semi-nude, whatever it is, trying to commit suicide in a bathtub. It's really, I don't understand.
Again, I keep saying, would this be a news if it was a male character, or this is news because it's a female character?
The way that I introduced this is by saying that DC has a history of mistreating female characters. Right. So
I think the industry has a history of mistreating.
The industry does, absolutely right. But when it comes to DC, they're the ones who allowed a female to be stuffed into a refrigerator. They did that. So with that history in mind, why would you commission something like this? I don't get it.
I don't know. I think if you read comics regularly, there are actors of violence all the time. And, I mean, acts of violence are acts of violence.
But with context.
Yeah, well, who can say that? I mean, again, it's acts of violence, and we as an audience, by paying for these things, we ask for more of it. Okay. We are part of the industry by buying this. It's the same thing with what's the writer for Nemesis or Kick-Ass or
Mark
Miller. He's well known for introducing scenes of rape into his stories randomly, just to make the characters even more edgy or more evil, and we keep. I'm not saying me personally, but I am part of the industry. I do buy the comic books. I do support comic book industry. So by doing this, we are supporting these actions and these things that happen in the industry. We just cannot be, well, this is white and this is black. We have to acknowledge that the violence is part of the reason why we also commit to buying and sometimes. What was it when Sentry ripped Carnage in the middle of people were like, that was awesome.
Well, there was no human being in there.
Well, might be or not, but it's a human, or it looks like a human being.
Carnage is a symbiote entity. It's not a human.
Well, okay.
So the Sentry ripped Carnage in half?
When Punisher
rips everyone in half.
Yeah, when Punisher shoots a drug dealer.
Yeah.
We accept that as part of the Punisher character, but he's essentially murdering somebody without giving him justice or.
Well, that gets into a larger issue about violence in comic books and really violence in entertainment in general.
Yeah,
and
we're part of the entertainment genre.
I don't think that we should be trying to get too far into that. I just think that DC has a responsibility to be careful about the message that they're sending, because this is a few times that we've had issues with them and women, and I don't understand it. I'm not saying that you can't have a woman die in a comic book or be killed or commit suicide. She can have all of the same nuances that a male character can, but DC commissioned this from its fan base.
Again,
That's my issue.
I think they did it as a gag. They choose Harley Quinn for a reason.
Yeah.
She's more like a gag character, like Deadpool,
Yeah.
Marvel, or stuff like that. And they probably thought it was cute. And it just shows a lack of vision. And obviously that there are more men running the industry than there are women.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I think that's what it is.
All right. So we're gonna table that discussion. But I'm sure that there will be much backlash, and I'm sure
yeah.
that we'll talk about this again.
Yeah, pretty sure.
Yeah. Switching over to Marvel now. All new Marvel Now is launching in December. And this actually confirms a suspicion that I had at the beginning of Marvel Now last year, which was that they would do this in seasons.
Oh yeah.
And I approve of that approach, so long as what happened previously doesn't get
Makes
lost
sense.
in
Right.
the wash. As long as there's a consistent sort of voice and movement, then I'm fine with it. But we know that Matt Fraction and Joe Mad will be on Inhuman, and James Robinson and Steve Pugh, I probably messed that name up. They'll be on the Invaders book.
Invaders.
Yeah.
That was
Wow.
one of the more surprising titles for me to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's Captain America, it's Bucky, it's Namor, and it's Human Torch.
Which is the robot
Yes,
version, the
yes.
Synthezoid or whatever.
he's
it is
back.
nowadays.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. The last time we saw him was in Secret Avengers,
Yeah.
which was
Yeah.
awesome run. So that's interesting, coming out from Marvel. I like that they're trying to keep their books sort of approachable for fans. If you are a fan who knows nothing about what's happening right now, hold out until December. You'll have all new stories that are starting fresh for you to jump on to. So that's really good news.
But that, like you said, are also continuing
Right.
what's already been going on. Which
Exactly.
is kind of the fun of it. Yeah.
Right. So they're choosing a light continuity approach going forward, and we're going to see how it pays off. So far, Marvel Now has been really good, and I don't see that changing just because they're, doing a soft sort of relaunch.
Right.
I'm actually excited for this.
Yeah.
Sounds cool.
Yeah, it's business as usual, I think, for comic book fans that read this stuff all the time, but it's a good way to get new people involved.
Totally. It's to see something like Invaders for me, I'm so used to picking out Avengers and New Avengers and
Yeah.
Secret Avengers, and they've been going on forever.
It's kinda like the
just some
Invaders.
weird new title. It's exciting to pick up on that.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Sure, yeah. I'm into it. And again, Invaders, I love it. I'm into it.
Totally.
Also, Scarlet Spider is going to be ending. I personally don't read it.
I don't either.
Loosely, I've read the last arc.
Okay, was it any good?
It was okay. I mean, it wasn't terrible.
Yeah.
It was-
Needless to say, people aren't picking it up, so
I liked it better in the beginning with
Yeah.
the Chris Yost.
yeah.
And Stegman team was really good.
Right.
And then the art went downhill and I just left.
Yeah. I never picked up an issue. I heard decent things about it, but ultimately, I guess fans didn't support it, so
Yeah.
that's the end of that. Good news, though. Warren Ellis is returning to mainstream comics with a 5-issue arc of Avengers Assemble, which is actually going to tie into Inhumanity. So that's obviously the writer on Avengers Assemble right now is Kelly Sue DeConnick. So Warren Ellis is going to come in and they're going to do some co-writing, which they did before on the Osborn miniseries that took place a few years ago.
How was that?
That was good. That was really
Okay.
good. So I'm a huge Warren Ellis fan. I'm really excited for his return to mainstream comics. I'm looking forward to this. That's
I
in
didn't even
December.
know he was gone.
He took a break.
Okay.
But he's coming back now. And actually, he's writing a original graphic novel called Avengers Endless Wartime, which releases, I want to say October. I want to say it's in October.
Okay.
So that's good news for Marvel. They got Warren Ellis back, at least
Yeah.
for now. And I'm sure that, they'll announce maybe something more from him
Yeah,
down the pipe.
line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so really good news there. that's about it from the news. Really, big
Maybe
news
light week, maybe.
Light? You think that was light?
Yeah, I think that was kind of light. No,
Okay.
No groundbreaking Ben Affleck stories.
Yeah, right. I'm still looking for the announcement of how Matt Damon will be involved in the
Oh God, here we go with Matt
DC
Damon.
movie. So let's move on to comics, right? What
sure.
did we read this week?
A lot of Villains Month from DC.
Yes.
Court of Owls, very good book.
I enjoyed it.
It was very sinister, very dark. Did not fit the normal comic book, superhero thing.
Yeah.
I liked also what was the other one? Aquaman, the Black
Manta.
Manta. That was pretty good also.
Yes, that was a good book.
Gave us a very good introspect into the character. Now that Aquaman, for this character, is gone, how he finds a purpose again to become Black Man.
If you watch my YouTube video, The Pull List, that's a new program that's going to be weekly, ongoing. I did speak about all the books that I purchased, and Court of Owls and Black Manta were two books that I did buy. Black Manta and Court of Owls were both really good. Court of Owls, for me, I felt they sort of pulled the curtain back too much with them. During the initial Batman run, where they were the villains, I felt that they were beaten, and they were beaten in a way that I don't feel that they could ever be a threat again.
I never want to see them again.
Right.
It's done.
Exactly. They're over.
Yeah.
They released all the Talons. They got beat. That's it. I'm over them. So to read more about them, and especially peeling back the curtain, was a little weird for me, but the art was good. The writing was good. Good book. I enjoyed it.
Well, I was surprised they peeled so much back, like you said,
Yeah.
but maybe that's the reason why. Because they were so thoroughly beaten last time that they were shown.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why they had to show why. Again, one of the recurring themes in the book is that why they cannot be beaten.
Yeah.
Because as they go back into the roots and they hide even lower, and there's more levels to what they've shown before. Whether that worked or not, I don't know.
Right.
Also, the new Lobo.
Yes, the new Lobo,
Which was very controversial when they wanted to bring a new Lobo into
Wasn't
the
it,
whole
like, some
redesign.
redesign, some,
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
whole redesign.
younger
sleek,
looking
sort of.
Apparently, the
Metro,
Lobo
if you
that's
will.
out there is not
Right.
the real Lobo that we know. So this is going to be the reintroduction of the real Lobo character. Not too far off from the old Lobo
in personality.
in personality. A little less humorous, more Judge Dreddy kind of attitude, but still kind of like in the same voice, in the same ballpark as the old Lobo.
It struck me as reading just normal Lobo with a new look, and I didn't appreciate it. I don't feel that his personality suits the look that he has now. It didn't really seem to make sense to me.
I wasn't too bothered with it. I'm more curious. It actually perked my curiosity to see what are they going to do with the old Lobo now that they introduced this new Lobo.
Right, that's an interesting point too. Who is that?
But other than I was never been a big fan of the old Lobo anyway. I thought it was like a character that got introduced as a serious character at the beginning, and then just was made as a I think even Deadpool was the inspiration of
Yeah.
the inspiration of Deadpool was actually Lobo. I think if Rob Liefeld won.
It was actually Deathstroke.
Deathstroke.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Deadpool was originally a parody of
there
Deathstroke.
you go.
Yeah.
It's a parody of Deathstroke. So, but again, two characters that are kind of like crazy out there, breaking the fourth wall and all that.
Yeah.
And so, again, if they can reintroduce and do something fresh, I will appreciate it. I really don't care.
he's
one
here,
way or
so
another.
the
Yeah.
best they could do is make it good.
Might as well.
Yeah, just a quick comment
Make an
on Black
effort.
Manta. It was written by Jeff Johns. So this book actually served as an addendum to Forever Evil.
Yes.
The crime syndicate does appear. We do find out what Black Manta's motivations are, as you said, going forward, given that Aquaman is out of the picture now. And I really like that. I like that at least that book and Court of Owls did establish what the villains are going to do and how they're responding to it.
It was Black Manta's point of view while Forever Evil was happening, which is very interesting.
Yes.
And to point out that in one of the previous podcasts, we didn't know, or I think Harris said that we weren't too sure what it was. The moon that Ultraman moved to eclipse the the sun.
Yes.
So,
so now
let's
that's
correct that
clarified.
now. Yeah, clarify that. Yeah, it was the moon, and that plays. I love the fact that little act, and Forever Evil, which you didn't see the impact of it. Obviously, when you move the moon, it has to have some sort of repercussion into the earth.
Yeah.
And that's something that ties directly into the reason of why Black Manta comes back.
Yeah.
Has a opposite force to the crime syndicate.
Right.
So that was very well done.
Yeah, and it makes me kind of wonder what DC's plans are for the villains. Are they going to rebel and rescue the heroes? Are they going to bring the heroes? Because obviously they're not dead, right? So wherever they're being held, will they release the heroes and all join together to stop the crime syndicate? Will the villains lay low? What's going to happen there?
I think it's just a way, an interesting and smart way of DC to prop their villains up and make them more whole. A lot of the 52 has dealt with the heroes and very little with the villains. So I think this is a very good way of them to introducing the villains into the new universe.
Necessary, in fact, because of the fact
very
that it's
necessary,
post
yes.
Flashpoint and that we don't necessarily know everything about these villains the way we
Exactly.
thought.
Correct. Yeah.
Speaking of which, this week we saw the Riddler issue of Villains Month come out, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. I actually thought that was the best Villains Month
Harris
book that I've
enjoyed
read
that
so
one a
far.
lot.
He did. I really am a fan of the Riddler, so it was good to see him back in full form. And this issue did a lot to establish his motivations, just like the Black Manta issue did, and his personality. I really, really was a fan of that book.
I did not read it. I will read it.
You should go pick that up.
But yeah, I mean, the Riddler's always been like one of those characters that Batman has, like the Penguin and Mad Hatter, that for some reason have no business being in a room with Batman. But they're there, they're interesting. So if they can make them more of a threat, then, that's fine.
I would say the Riddler has a really good motivation for why he goes after Batman.
I mean physically.
Yes.
These are characters
These are
that
just-
physically just don't pose a threat to Batman.
They're
Absolutely.
mobsters.
They're really,
thuggish.
thieves and guys, bank robbers and stuff like that. But again, if you can find a new angle to point these characters to where it makes it more interesting, then I'm all for it. So I'm glad that they're doing that with the Batman characters.
Sure.
Moving forward.
Yeah. So that's kind of it for me in terms of what I read from DC. Marvel.
Avengers
We
19.
saw Avengers 19
Avengers
come out.
19, continuing Infinity. We have Battle of the Atom, another event going on right now. And maybe you want to tell us a little bit about Avengers 19, Sean?
Yeah. I thought Avengers 19 was solid, another solid issue. If you are not reading Avengers and New Avengers and you're reading Infinity, you will be lost. That is now confirmed.
Don't do it.
Yes.
Yeah, you have to do this. You have to read those two books. If you're reading those two books and you're not reading Infinity, you will be lost. Don't do it. Read Infinity. Marvel has essentially now said very clearly that if you pick up one of the books, you need to pick up all
the
of the
books, yeah. Or it won't make sense.
Right. I personally don't have an issue with that because I was reading both of those already. So Infinity is a nice addition to that. I like getting the full story from reading these three books. But if you really just don't care for the Avengers or New Avengers books, all I'm saying is be aware that there are things that happen in those books that are going
Totally crucial. They're
Right.
essential.
There was a lot of talking in this book. It was very talky.
Yeah, very wordy. I was
Yeah.
going to say that.
Yeah.
To me, it felt like there was actually a lot of action happening, though. Just the interactions, the Galactic Council
Sure.
and seeing that, spoilers, seeing the, what's his name? Jason?
Jason, yeah.
Seeing him go behind everyone's back and, like, send that decoy to the builders. For me, that was action. I was
There was
edge
a
of
lot
my
of
seat
a lot
that's
of big
while that was
events happening in the book, but
Yeah.
not in terms of action,
No,
but in terms
totally.
of the story.
Yeah.
A lot of big events,
Certainly
a
some
lot
big
of
developments.
repositionings of the powers and the characters
Yeah.
and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But not that heavy on the action. Very heavy on the wording. But other than that, I didn't enjoy it as much as the other stuff that I read from Infinity and stuff like that. But it does make a nice addition to the overall story.
It was a faster read. It was like kind of a light read compared to 2. There was just more to process in 2, more different groups acting and doing different things. This one was a little bit more straightforward, and I actually enjoyed that after 2.
There was an interesting moment that I haven't seen anyone comment on, and it struck me as very strange. When Jason is talking to Captain America and Thor, he refers to them as backwater apes.
Mm-hmm.
Thor is a god. He's not an ape. I don't understand why Jason wouldn't know that, and why he would refer to Thor in that way, and why Thor would accept
allow that.
Yeah, that's very inconsistent with Thor's character.
Yeah,
I
thought that was just a straight up editorial mistake. Like, just Hickman didn't know he wrote that with Thor in the room, or maybe Thor wasn't supposed to be there, or I don't know. But
he seems to be hitting on these inconsistency when writing characters, and in the moment that he chooses to have them act the right way according to their character and not the right way depending when it's convenient. So that didn't surprise me as much. Maybe that's why it just kind of like flew over my head because again, we haven't seen him show that consistency when it comes to the characters within that story.
Okay.
And either you take that as part of his writing or you take that as part of the overall look at the flaws of the books.
Sure.
So I just kind of accepted that that's not going to happen. Yeah. So that's my view on that.
Yeah. So unless you guys have any more comments about Avengers, I want to talk about Battle of the Atom.
Battle of the Atom.
Go right into it.
I liked it, but it was slow. I think that they need to pick up the pace and introduce now the risks and what we should be looking for in terms of how this Battle of the Atom, if you will, is going to, coalesce and come to a head.
I'm seeing a lot of we just came out of an event. Age of Ultron just happened, and that was a Bendis story. I'm seeing a lot of the pacing issues that I had with Age of Ultron repeated here in Battle of the Atom. And going into this event, I did not want that to happen. I knew that it would or could, but I was specifically telling myself.
So they didn't disappoint you.
I'm not yet, but it seems that it may head in that direction. And
in terms of pacing, they did not disappoint you. They kind of heading on the same kind of pacing points that they did on the Age of Ultron.
Just too much extra. It's not eventy. It's casual.
A lot of conversation, a lot of moments, a lot of pages just a lot of pages just stuck in the same moment, and nothing goes forward. You really 2 issues in, you really don't know what really the payoff of this or what are the consequences of it.
Or even why it's called Battle of the Atom. I mean, is it just because of the X-Men and it's like a reference to
the Atom wasn't there.
And everything?
He's a DC
I mean, there's really nothing.
Oh, God.
There's no huge, intense Battle of the Atom going on. It's just like, send them back. We got to get them.
What I would say is the Battle of the Atom likely refers to the Cyclops team versus the Wolverine team finally coming to a head. That's ultimately what's going to happen if I'm reading it right so far.
Yeah.
This issue, as you guys already said, was a lot of conversation, a lot of talking heads, characters sort of making their stance clear on whether or not the Young Mutants should return to the past where they came from. Of course, we're referring to the original X-Men. They are now in the future. Right. Should they return to the past? I liked getting their opinions laid out clearly, but this is, again, a problem with Brian Bendis. This already happened. We already know how most of these characters feel. So why do we need to rehash it? Of course, I should say that Brian Wood actually wrote this issue. And he, of course, is a very talented writer. The issue was written well. It's just the pacing of it is strange.
Coming off the first issue.
Right, and into the second and the third. I think we know these characters' points already. The Cyclops thing, of course, in the first issue we saw Cyclops die. The young Cyclops die for a few moments.
And then come back.
The old Cyclops started to fade away.
Yeah, he was Marty McFly.
The old Cyclops disappears, and all the characters had a reaction to that event.
I didn't like that, actually.
Well, my thing about that is that the X-Men have dealt with time travel so many times that they know what happens. and they know enough to know that they don't know how to predict it.
Yeah.
So you should never mess with it.
Right.
So even the future X-Men coming back is strange to me because all the X-Men know that it's bad.
Yeah.
It's bad.
They're trying to play like this whole fish out of water, which if you read the X-Men for a long period of time, you're just not gonna buy this.
Yes.
They've been through this so many times. This story's been recycled in so many ways that you just don't believe the premise of it. And it wasn't me, but I didn't understand the last 3 panels of that book. There's a guy that looks, the dog looks, and
Which book?
it looked like that. The Battle of the
Just the
Atom.
newest one?
No, I'm still in 2.
Oh, you haven't read issue 3?
I haven't read issue 3 yet.
Oh.
But in issue 2, when it ends, the guy with the dog. It's he like an important character? Or was just like
he on the beach.
Yeah,
No, I
kind
think
of like
he was
that.
just there to be like, what's this gesture?
Yeah, that kind of
here?
threw me off. It kind of like it was like an important. Like,
Yeah.
who is this character?
I thought it
All
was
of a
going to be
sudden-
something too. I don't
exactly,
think it would be.
and then it didn't end up to be anything.
Yeah.
I guess. So I didn't understand the pattern of that. Like, why were you showing that? But again, I thought as an artist I should mention that.
Yeah.
Why that came out like that, but I guess it was just them trying to show the average man's reaction to a plane.
Right.
Yeah.
Just totally.
But it kind of
Wow.
threw me off. I thought
Stuff
maybe
happening.
he was meant to be somebody in the dog also. Just to
Yes.
throw that off.
Yes. I think that they need to really sort of get to the point. Now, this is a weekly book. So
And
if
it's supposed to run how long?
it's 10 issues long. If
Okay.
this were a monthly book, I would be furious. Because it's a weekly book, I'm more acceptable, but I've been dealing with this from Bendis for such a long time. I mean, this isn't anything new.
Yeah.
That I really, really wish he would get to the point.
Yeah.
Even with issue 3, we should have everything established.
He doesn't
by
really
now.
like to play cleanup a lot, though, which is what I'm having a big issue with right now. Is like, okay, I get it, Ultron broke the timeline, everything's messed up. But, like, future Jean Grey, does that mean that this future will become a permanent thing?
Yeah, I didn't
how
get
can a
that
future
either.
become erasable if Cyclops himself erased, but the timeline remained unchanged? That's why I had an issue with Cyclops disappearing that way, because it shouldn't just be Cyclops disappearing, it should be reality warping in on itself.
Well,
It's just too inferred. It's too lazy. I'm just
I
I
don't
don't
know.
like time travel.
And if
for
in
that
Days of
reason.
Future Past, when they went to the future and they were all dead and they still were there, if you die in the future, why will you be in the past? Again,
How could there be a future Jean Grey?
we already
If
talked
they're
about
gonna
this.
send her back. That future has to get erased.
Oh, no, not necessarily. All that implies is that at some point in our current time, Jean will return. The dead Jean that exists in the Marvel Universe as we know it will come back.
Oh.
Because in order for there to be
She
a
always
future
comes
one,
back.
the
The
current
future one
time,
is not the current back
no,
past one.
they're all the same person essentially,
Right.
but I guess it could go two ways. Either the past Jean will stay in the current Marvel Universe and grow up to be that,
The younger one. I'm
right,
sorry.
or the current Marvel Jean who is dead will return and grow up to be that.
No, she always does.
Which that seems more probable to me than the past one becoming that. But then again, as we're dealing with time travel, none of that could happen.
Right.
We don't even know. What we do know is that they've been dealing a lot with time travel lately. Not just with the X-Men. We had Age of Ultron, which was a time travel heavy event.
Mm-hmm.
We've got the future X-Men coming back. A lot of time travel stuff going on. So I'm kind of wondering where that's going.
Yeah, that we also have Infinity. I mean, not Infinity. Yeah, we have Infinity. No, we have Hunger happening in the
yes.
Ultimate U, and that's also
Right. Time travel.
universe breaking stuff.
I love time travel.
Age of
Yeah.
Ultron stuff. So everything. I mean, a lot of people are actually speculating that we might actually see a Flashpoint. I don't think so, but
I hope not.
some sort of big weird convergence of everything.
Yeah, a condensation
realigning
event.
of
Yeah.
things.
I think so. I think they don't just want to go out and say it, but I think they, for some reason, Marvel wants to redo. For some reason, even though DC has not had a lot of success with this, Marvel seems to slowly position themselves into walking the same steps with the whole Flashpoint thing that DC did. They might not call it Flashpoint. They might not do it as
they
obvious.
definitely won't call it Flashpoint.
No, they definitely won't. But they won't say the Flashpoint word. But they're definitely going and taking in a different way, the same steps that the DC did to realign and restart their
Well, Marvel
their
wants
lines.
to have their cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
They want to have Nick Fury be black,
Yes.
even though he didn't start black.
No.
They want to introduce Miles Morales into the current Marvel universe and potentially have him be Spider-Man, even though
Or have Peter Parker and Miles Morales at the same time.
be Spider-Man at the same time.
Yeah.
That's a possibility. They set up the Ultimate Universe so that they could do things and have it be sort of, off the wall, outside of the Marvel continuity, and, be continuity light and friendly to new readers. But because no one's buying it, and because the current Marvel Universe already is that with Marvel Now and all new Marvel Now, which is upcoming, there's no need for the Ultimate Universe. But they still love these ideas. So I see a sort of mashup of the two universes, and they're going to take what they love from each.
And
Yeah,
it seems that most people actually prefer the Ultimate Universe. Avengers, the movie, is based on the Ultimate Universe.
Well,
for the most
it
part,
takes its cues from that.
Well,
I would
it's
say
the same Hawkeye. It's the same Nick Fury.
that Hawkeye is very different.
Well, not in terms of the regular. I don't know how much the character changed, but the original Hawkeye then obviously wasn't a government agent or anything like that.
Right? Sure. Yes. In that vein, yes.
In that vein. But when you read the Ultimate Avengers, he is.
In Ultimate
he has
Avengers,
the glasses, the same.
Hawkeye
costume.
uses guns.
Really?
He's just a
Yeah.
marksman. He could use anything.
Yeah.
He has a moment where he's like
Doesn't he kill somebody
strapped
with
in
a
and he,
nail or
he,
something like that?
Picks off his fingernails and flicks them in the eyes of people.
His family
It's
dies
crazy.
at
It's
some
crazy.
point, and then he decides that he's only going to use guns.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys remember that, but he becomes a gun-toting, sort of depressed lunatic,
Yeah,
a la
and-
Punisher.
I didn't see that
Didn't,
part.
didn't he die also in the regular Marvel universe with the Sentry storyline?
Hawkeye?
He gets, or the
No.
Ultrons come back. I
No,
don't
Hawkeye
know.
is
He's
alive and
blind
well.
now.
Hawkeye is blind.
Yeah. Spoilers.
Where's that?
He's Daredevil now.
Kind of. Yeah, in the most recent Ultimates, they blinded him.
Oh, you mean in the Ultimate Universe?
Yeah.
Oh,
The
got
Ultimate
you.
Universe.
Got you.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I think that's where they're going, and for me, I'm not too comfortable with the idea. I think Marvel does have the desire to press the reset button, but they know that they saw the response to Flashpoint.
Yeah.
They saw the response to the New 52, which in some cases was actually great, but then there are certain questions like Batman and
Well,
things like that.
I'll be honest. I actually love Flashpoint.
The event itself, or
Yeah,
what?
the event itself.
The event itself was fine.
Yeah, I just did not like what it led to, and
Oh,
what
okay.
it led to with the
Yeah.
52,
Yeah.
and the disappointment. Of course, we knew they were gonna come up with a lot of bad books, which they did, but they come up with some good books too. But I did not like what it led to, but the event itself of Flashpoint, I did enjoy it.
Well, I'm not so concerned here with the event itself as what it led to ultimately, and I think if Marvel goes down that road, if they're gonna do it, let's assume for a second that they're gonna do it.
I think they're already doing it. but
Okay,
just-
well, let's assume that we're correct in
Well,
that. They cannot have the same questions lingering. For example, how is it possible that Batman had so many Robins and he's only been Batman for a small amount of time? How is it possible that Batman has a 9-year-old son when he's only been Batman for 5 years? There's a lot of questions that need to be asked.
Well, with the Batman thing, again, I think that was a whole different. I don't think anybody stipulates the current Batman that's running on Batman with the one on Justice League. You just can't. That's the one pre-52, and the other one is a completely different. I just can't see it.
I'm not
just
following you.
I don't read them the same. The young Batman you see on Justice League, it's so different. They write him so differently from the Batman that, even though they're supposed to be the same character, it's kind of like it's that Batman from the Batman series. It's the old Batman pre-52. And they just continue writing him that way. And the one on Justice League is kind of like, all right, this is our new take on Batman. This is the young Batman.
First of all, the new
For the same questions, the same points that you just pointed out.
the first arc of Justice League takes place years before what comes later, so that may lend to your feelings. But also recall,
okay, so that might be it. That's why I feel that way.
Recall that Scott Snyder is the writer on Batman, and Jeff Johns is the writer on Justice League. Two writers with pretty different styles. So I can see what you're saying. Plus,
Batman... remember, Batman Incorporated just finished. So that was Grant Morrison. So that was like a whole different Batman also, compared to the other two writers that were writing Batman.
Exactly. There's just so many inconsistencies with the new 52. I can't even wrap my head around.
That's what we're trying to say. Hopefully Marvel, even though they seem like they want to go that way, hopefully they do a better job of slowly, introducing these new ideas.
Yeah, making it make sense.
Yeah. So I think we can wrap up on that note.
Yeah.
Good show. Definitely look out for the pull list, which will be, like I said, weekly, ongoing, where I review all the books that I pulled that week. Which reminds me, before we wrap up, I do want to talk about one last book. It was my favorite book of the week, which I spoke about extensively on the pull list. That was Captain America. Very incredible book.
He's now back from Dimension Z, correct?
He is back from Dimension Z. So I just want to take a few moments out to give you guys a rundown of what happened and how this is incredible. So in Dimension Z, he was there for 12 years, okay? And he raised a son there. He raised Arnim Zola's son as his own. And towards the end of that run, towards the end of Dimension Z, Sharon Carter actually finds a way to step through and kills Captain America's son without realizing that he was no longer evil.
Yeah, there was a stepson or
well, it was Arnim Zola's son, and Cap was raising it. So Sharon Carter kills Captain America's son. Captain America's been gone for 12 years, hasn't seen her in 12 years, hasn't seen anyone in that period of time, and now is back on Earth and has to reconcile himself with the fact that all of these things happen to him, but nobody knows.
That is crazy.
It is crazy. And also, what it does is that it sort of reverses the old Captain America Man Out of Time story, where
his origin. Yeah.
Exactly. He was in this glacier of ice for X amount of years, is resurrected into a world he doesn't recognize. He was in a world that he didn't recognize, lived there for 12 years, and now he's on Earth, and nobody knows. 30 minutes passed between his time on Earth, time in Dimension Z, and his return to Earth. So Captain America's psyche now is something that we don't even know where his head is at. In fact, in Uncanny Avengers, he tells Wasp what happened, and that he's not all there right now. Yeah. So for the future of this book, this Captain America book, it's going to be really interesting to see how they play with that. And it might even come up in Infinity. We don't know. But Rick Remender has...
Hopefully.
Yeah, exactly. Rick Remender has done an excellent job with this title. And you can tell that he really understands what makes Captain America a compelling character. And probably, in my estimation, for the first time since I've been reading comics, introduced something to Captain America's world that totally rocks and shakes the character to his core. So... very high marks for that.
So he took him back to the beginning.
In a way, but in a new way.
But in a new way, yeah. But essentially, he rebooted the character without having to not acknowledge the past.
Well, that's the thing. Captain America now has had these two experiences with time displacement.
Twice has happened to him. He's gonna
So how does that mess with his mind?
Twice as crazy.
We'll see. We will see.
He's really
hopefully you'll see that. Yeah.
And again, that's not time travel, but he did go to another world.
Time displacement.
So again, with the whole sort of time as a sort of entity that characters are moving through. Very interesting that this continues to happen. But I just wanted to make sure that I brought that book up because it was very good and deserves.
Which kind of like happened also to the Batman character where Grant Morrison wrote him up, and then he came back and that never got mentioned again.
Right.
Displacement.
So
hopefully with the Captain America they do acknowledge that. And it brings it to a more interesting future stories.
Right. And the person who Captain America raised as his son, that character's sister, I can't remember her name currently, she actually came through with him. So now this is a character who actually is going through what Captain America's going through for her first time. So it was really interesting how they're going to integrate her and see where that goes. But yeah.
Yeah, there you go. That's sounds like a great
Pick it up. You guys should definitely
fountain of stories to come along.
Yeah. So with that being said, now we're definitely gonna wrap up. Look out for the pull list. Definitely join us next week, and we're gonna have more things coming down the pipe. So stay tuned. My name is Sean Bartley,
Leo,
Danny,
and we are signing off. Thanks, guys.
like always, Affleck.